everyone, it's me again, Brittany, and I'm here today to do something that I've been wanting to do ever since I saw this tag like originally come up on YouTube, and that's the Pray for the Wicked tag. I believe it was made by Becca in the Books, and I will leave her video down below. It's amazing. I'm just so excited. I love Panic at the Disco. I've always really loved Panic at the Disco, and my boyfriend and I actually bought tickets for their show. That's now coming up in August, a few months ago, and I'm just so excited for it. And when they came out with their new album, I loved it. I honestly haven't been able to stop listening to it. I've like really been listening to it this past week too, just because I knew I wanted to know like all the words so that I could sing along with you guys during this tag, and like it's great. I love it. I love everything about that album. I love Panic at the Disco. So I'm so excited that this tag is here, and I just should get into it because I feel like it's gonna be kind of long. And there's a question for each one of the songs, and I'm just so excited. For Fuck a Silver Lining, there are actually two questions that you can answer. You can pick either or. The first one is a book you didn't expect to like but loved, or a not so great book that had a silver lining that kept you hooked. So for this one, okay, so I also want to start off by saying I tried not to pick a lot of the books that I've been talking about a lot, so so for this one, I actually picked Red Rising for Pierce Brown. I actually didn't think I was gonna like this book. It was huge a few years back, and I was so into it, and I picked it up right away. And then when I found out it like followed a man, and after his wife died, and like things like that, I was like, that doesn't sound like something I'd like. It doesn't sound like my age group. It doesn't. I'm not a man. I normally don't like reading from a man's perspective. That's like a big thing. And I thought I wasn't gonna like this at all, especially because it was sci-fi. I just wasn't sure about it, honestly. And I picked it up on audiobook earlier this year, and I loved it. It was so good, so fantastic. Honestly, one of my favorite books that I've read this year so far, and it was awesome. I still haven't gotten to Golden Sun, but I really want to. I don't know what's stopping me. So yeah, if you haven't read this and you want to expand your sci-fi knowledge, do it.
Oh, it's Saturday night.
For Say Amen, it's Saturday night. The question, again, you can pick either or, is either a book you were thankful was over, or a book you could spend all Saturday night reading. So I'm answering a book I was grateful was over question, and that's gonna be Immortal Rain by Morgan Rhodes. As you guys know, I didn't have like the best time reading this series. It wasn't like that I hated it, it was just that I had a lot of critiques while reading it, and I just didn't love it. I was never fully immersed in the story. I was always kind of just picking it apart and kind of frustrated with the way the characters were doing things, but I kept reading it because I can't leave a series unfinished, and I just kept reading it. So 6 books later, I finally finished the last book, and I was so grateful that the series was over. I don't have to worry about reading another one of these. That sounds so harsh. I'm sorry.
Are you ready for the sequel? Are you ready for the latest? In the garden of evil, I'm gonna be the greatest. In a gold cathedral, I'll be praying for the faithless. And if you lose, boo-hoo. Hey, look, ma, I made it. Hey, look, ma, I made it. Everything's coming up places. Everything's don't break me. I said, hey, look, ma, I made it.
For Hey Look Ma, I Made It, the question is, or the prompt is, a book you feel accomplished for finishing. Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I never ever thought I'd pick this up ever. So when I got it on audiobook and finished I believe it was a 25-hour audiobook, and I listened to it on 1x speed, so it was 25 hours. I felt so accomplished for finishing it, and it's actually amazing, like really amazing. Do not be intimidated by what a little fat boy it is. I still need to get the big floppy paperback. I don't like mass markets, but hi Luna. Thanks for bringing me your toy. Well, it's fantastic, especially if you like high fantasy. I just love the magic system. I love these characters. I just think it's so beautiful, like the world and the writing and definitely one of my favorite books of all time. Like honestly my favorite song, and I don't like this question because I like love that song so much. But for High Hopes, it's a book you had high hopes for but fell flat. I've been talking about this one literally nonstop, so if you're not surprised by my answer, I am sorry, but definitely Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. I had such high hopes for this book. I had just finished Fangirl. I thought I was gonna love this book. I thought I was gonna love it just as much as Fangirl. I thought that Rainbow Rowell was gonna become like one of my new contemporary favorite authors ever, and it just fell so flat. I gave this, I think, 2 stars, but like I wanted to give it 1.
This is my
That song is so much fun! Okay, for Roaring Twenties, it's a book that makes you feel nostalgic, and I really tried not to be Harry Potter for this one, guys, like, but recently I actually watched the movie adaptation of this book, and I mean, it's not a good movie adaptation by any means, but it made me feel so nostalgic, and like my heart swelled, and it gave me a lot of motivation to finish the series because I never started the last book. So for that one, it's gonna be Eragon by Christopher Paolini. This is actually the bind-up of Eragon and Eldest. This is my original copy that I ever read of this series. I do now own like Eragon and Eldest in hardcovers, but I still really like this cover. I think it's really pretty, so I kept it. This is my first big floppy back I ever owned, I think. This is actually the first high fantasy book I ever read. I read this, I want to say, in 6th or 7th grade, and I loved this so much. I loved dragons and I loved this world. It was so different than anything I'd ever read before, and I really liked it a lot, and it still made me really nostalgic. It really got me into fantasy. Yeah, I don't know. If you haven't ever read this, even though it's like geared towards kids more than anything, I would still really recommend it, but I loved it, so I don't know if you like dragons, maybe. So for Dancing's Not a Crime, it is a book that BookTube makes you feel it's a crime for not loving or hating. Now this next book, I don't hate it. I want to start off by saying that. I actually like it, but I'll explain more when you see it. So it's Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I do like this series. I liked this book actually quite a bit when I read it. BookTube loves this book, like is obsessed with this book and these characters, and I can totally tell why. I think I need to reread the duology, honestly, because my experience reading it wasn't like it was like, wow, cool. It was like nice. It just wasn't like blown away, I'm gonna die for this book. It was more of like, cool, I'll definitely read the second one. I really don't know. I still really like it. Don't kill me. I do. I don't know, it wasn't amazing. It wasn't like the best thing that I'd ever read in my entire life.
It's all good, I guess. This is what it is like when you become one of the drums. This is what it is like when you become one of the drums. Searching for you high as the sun, above every dawn. This is what it feels like when you become one of the drums.
So for One of the Drunks, it's a book that you got drunk on and left you with a book hangover. For this one, there's no other that I can think of that did it as strongly as A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. This copy is so beat up. Wow, I didn't even realize that. It's like, I remember screaming when this book was ending, like screaming at the tops of my lungs, crying. I remember screaming halfway through the book, like with excitement, and I just, like, this book, I couldn't put this down. Like, I loved it so much. I was so enthralled. Everything was perfect, and I just, I'm getting all worked up talking about it, but I loved everything about this book. Like if you haven't read this yet, I don't know, I just do it. I don't even think you need to read the other ones. Just read this one, it's okay. For The Overpass, it is a book that deals with difficult subject matter. I picked out Perfect by Ellen Hopkins. This one specifically follows 4 different characters with 4 different problems, but I've talked about Ellen Hopkins a lot. She writes in verse, and she writes about very, very, very serious issues. She talks about drugs, she talks about anorexia, she talks about depression, she talks about bulimia, she talks about just standards and steroids and perfectionism. And this one specifically is about perfectionism. It's like each character dealing with their own issues to become perfect. One character that refuses to identify as lesbian even though it would make her happiest. We have another character who will do anything to look perfect for her modeling agency, starving herself, surgeries, anything. We have another character who is using steroids to become better at things, and he has a lot of anger issues. And we have another one who can't follow like his dream path because of his family. It's just, all of her books deal with lots of tough subject matter. Just be careful if you're reading it and you may be triggered by anything. Definitely look up the trigger warnings for each of the books. They are very, very graphic, but fantastic. I think that my eyes have really been opened by her writing. I feel like I know so much more that I never even knew that I didn't know because of it, and I feel, I don't know, overall these are some of my favorite books, honestly. I love this next song. I feel like I keep saying that, I just love them all so much.
I don't trust anything or anyone in your sun. I don't feel anything at all. I'm king of the clouds, of the clouds. I can lift it, I can lift it. I'm king of the clouds, of the clouds. I can lift it, I can lift it.
Alright, for King of the Clouds, it's your go-to book to pick up when you're feeling down. I would have honestly said A Court of Mist and Fury for this one, but I already talked about it, so Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas. Honestly, this is one of my favorite ones to read in her whole series. I have, that's so cute. I just really like Queen of Shadows for whatever reason. I think it's because it's such like a good like in-between book, like joining Heir of Fire's characters to Queen of Shadows, or to Throne of Glasses, and like mixing the worlds that we were experiencing in Heir of Fire with like the world that we already knew in Throne of Glass, and it's just really cool. And then we finally get to like, the ending is like gratifying just because we've been waiting for that for 4 books, and I just really liked it a lot. I loved this book. So I have like 3 separate bookmarks in here. That's actually kind of funny. Now for Old Fashioned, it's your favorite book published before 2000. Again, I almost picked Harry Potter, but I feel like everyone talks about Harry Potter, and I have, now don't be surprised, I've never ever reread Harry Potter in my whole life. I want to do a reread later on this year, but like I've never reread it ever since Deathly Hallows came out. So for this book, I chose Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. I read this book for my 7th grade English class, and it is the only book that was assigned to me for summer reading that I actually read. I loved this book. This book is one of the biggest reasons why I chose psychology to continue on learning with in college, why it's my major, why I'm just so fascinated. I can't remember much about this book now. I definitely need to reread it, but I loved it. It inspired me so much. I felt, it like ignited my curiosity. There's like cursing in it, and there's just so much fun stuff. I really enjoyed it, and it was definitely published before 2000. I think it's like 1960. Well, it's like a little copyright thing. Copyrighted 1945, 46, 51. Copyright renewed 1979. Woo!
Every face along the boulevard is a dreamer just like you. You looked at death in a tarot card and you saw what you had to do. But nobody knows you now when you're dying in LA. And nobody owes you now when you're dying in LA. When you're dying in LA. When you're dying in LA.
A nice slow song to close out this tag because I'm sad it's over. For Dying in LA, it's a book that you love that is underhyped. I tend to read hyped books. I don't know why, I feel like there's so many hyped books that I need to get to that I never try and look for unhyped books. I need to start doing that. So I picked things from before I was in BookTube, and I feel like this book was hyped. I still see it around in bookstores, so it must have been. I just, you know, obviously on BookTube I've never heard this talked about because it's definitely geared for preteens. And I loved it. And that's gonna be I'd Tell You I Love You, but then I'd have to kill you by Ali Carter. I loved this whole series. It's like a spy school, and I love the idea of a spy school and like badass females, and like it's just like so cool. I love these books. I don't know if you guys read them, let me know down below, but I had a great time reading this when I was young. Alright, yeah, so that's gonna be it for today's tag video. I hope you had fun singing along with me, and I hope I didn't completely embarrass myself. I probably did, it's okay. So yeah, I wasn't tagged, and I'm not gonna tag anyone just because I feel like everyone's been tagged, or you know, yeah, that's about it. So if you want to do it, you can just say you're tagged by me. That's cool. Yeah, I'll catch you guys in my next one. Bye.